How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another community questions video where we'll be taking the comments that the community left on the post that I put on YouTube with the question that said today, what has been your absolute favorite update in the past and why? While we are looking forward to the newer boss coming out in the near future and all of the updates we've had recently, I thought this would be an interesting topic to find out what the actual favorite updates from everybody else would be that's happened in the past. This can be anything from the start of RuneScape all the way till like last week's patch update, if there was something in there that was your favorite. So anyway, we're going to see what the comments say, read through those, and then give a little bit of discussion about them. And then at the end, I will talk about what my favorite update was and why. If you enjoy, leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and let's get going. Alright, so our first comment and the most upvoted comment on this thread says, Crypt Bloom armor or the animate dead spell. I have limited dexterity in my left hand due to nerve damage. Having armor or abilities in the game that makes bosses more forgiving opens a huge chunk of the game for me that was above my skill level before. I'm never going to hit world records or earn max cash, but just being able to experience high level bosses makes the game so much more fun for me. Okay, so first off, you absolutely will earn max cash. I know you will, trust me, you will get there and you will absolutely do it. It may take a while, but as long as you're earning money, at some point you will hit that max cash, and I absolutely think you will. So good luck to you first off. But honestly, this is great, and I actually love Crypt Bloom and I love Animate Dead because I think it does exactly what you said. I completely agree that it opens up the game for so many people in so many ways. It did the same for me as well, and I actually made a video talking about this in the past where I wanted to talk about like the Crypt Bloom and what it actually did to change the game for me, and it opened up so many bosses that I just wouldn't have been able to do. For example, tanking almost any boss in any group PvM content, you could just use Crypt Bloom. It makes it way easier. You still have to put the effort in and stuff, but being able to tank Solak, for example, is something that I was just struggling big time to even try and do in Tectonic, but using Crypt Bloom armor made this possible, and it opened it up for me too. So I'm really glad to hear that you have had the same outcome that I did, and even in a better way for you. Like, this sounds like it's been such a good thing for you as well, opening up a hell of a lot of stuff in the game. So I'm very happy, and like I said, I am very certain that you will eventually hit that max cash stack. So when you do, make sure you let me know. The next comment says, for me, definitely the bank rework. The organization of tabs is great for us OCD players. Being able to use presets for several setups is a blessing. It saves time, super convenient, and was an all-round good update in my opinion. Absolutely, the bank rework was hella needed. Do you even just think about it now, right? All you guys that played before the bank rework, because I know that it's been a while now, right? Just think back to how bad the bank was. It was so bad. How did we cope? Like, even now, my bank is an absolute mess, but I can't imagine keeping it tidy or in any way useful before the bank rework. Holy hell, was it like, it was so bad. I mean, it worked, right? But it was such a big difference to what we have now. And of course, we got more presets given to us as well at some point, which you say being able to use presets for several setups is a blessing. Like, having those extra presets has been absolutely amazing, and I very much appreciated that when we got them because it's helped out a lot. I have a preset for most of the bosses now that I do actively, and I don't think I've updated a preset in a hell of a long time, except for just one that I keep free for just random stuff that I'm testing out for videos and stuff. But absolutely true, having the bank reworked the way it is now, it saves a lot of time. Like I say, it's super convenient, and it was just good overall. It really was. But you doing skilling and stuff now with the bank rework, having placeholders for items and stuff just makes it so much easier. It really does. Like, you don't accidentally take something out and lose a slot, and then you got to reorganize the bank or whatever. So if you you take the stuff out, it's just so much easier. It just is, and I'm pretty sure most people would be absolutely not willing to go back to the old bank. Let me know if you guys even remember exactly how it works, because thinking about it now, I can kind of remember it, but not a whole lot. Like, it was very basic, but I feel like if I was asked to like describe exactly how the old one used to work, I probably wouldn't remember all of it. Maybe. This one comes from a little bit closer and more recent, and it says, I have to say the Glacier front. Glacier opened up PvM for so many people and is the ideal learner boss. It also is insanely fun to do and to try and beat your records. The Glacier, I think Jagex obviously designed this to actually help people get into PvM, especially normal mode, of course. Normal mode, you can toggle on and off the different mechanics and stuff, and you can learn it one step at a time. Obviously, being able to do this slows down the boss fight a little bit and lets you practice in a way that is good for you. It kind of makes it so that if you are someone who is like already getting into PVM, you can throw in all the mechanics and you can practice them all together. Or if you're someone who's brand new, you can literally go in with no mechanics to begin with, just practice your DPS, and then turn on one mechanic, which will be your prayer flicking maybe, and then one more, and then just add them up until you get to a point where you're like, yeah, I've learned how to prayer flick, I've learned how to be in the right position at the right time, I've learned how to use defensives, I've learned how to manage my food, like I've learned my DPS rotation. It is so good. Like, it is such a good boss for learning. It really is. Jagex kind of hit the nail on the head with this boss for a learning boss. They absolutely did, and I think there's not really all that much different that they could have done for normal mode, at least, to actually make it better for learners. What do you guys think? Is there anything that you think could have been added to this boss for learners that make it a little bit easier? There's no death costs. It's a safe death if you die here in normal mode. So I don't know. I can't really think of much else, but I'm sure you guys will have some good ideas. The next comment says, Essence of Finality brought back many old items into new uses and opened the game up for many new combinations for PvM. Honestly, I completely agree with this, and when the Essence of Finality came out, I initially thought, wow, this is OP. This is ridiculously OP. What is this power creep? But actually, when you think about it properly, it is kind of OP because it lets you use the specs and stuff, and it has made a lot of bosses like super ridiculously easy, and people were flying through like Bandos. They did like one-tick Bandos or something, didn't they? But either way, it brings items back and it makes them have value again, just like this comment says. Jagex seemed to be focusing on the fact of trying to recycle the uses of items in the past rather than just leaving everything as dead content. And while that is obviously going to be ridiculously difficult to do, they're managing to pull it off in some situations. For example, Invention made a hell of a lot of items that had no use, no value, back to actually having a value and being part of Invention, giving you different components and stuff. That was such a good thing, and I think Invention is actually probably going to be on this list somewhere maybe, but either way, if it's not, it absolutely should be, and Invention's great. But the Essence of Finality does exactly the same thing, right? It makes all these old redundant spec weapons that were worth literally nothing because no one was using a dark bow. Let's be honest, no one was touching a dark bow, but then suddenly Essence of Finality comes back and dark bows are now worth a good amount of money. Like, I don't know. There is just something very smart about the way they design the Essence of Finality, I think, and it is just definitely a good thing for the game as well. It opens up, like you say, many new combinations for PvM, and it makes the feel of it different, but at the same time, like, also being so good for the game too and the economy is definitely a good thing. Our next comment says, the mining and smithing rework. It literally made smithing my favorite skill, and I love it. Now, I actually don't know how I feel about the mining and smithing rework. I think it's good in the way that I think they've made smithing and mining, of course, more interesting and more doable. It doesn't kind of like hurt your brain. Mining was like so slow and so painful to do, whereas now it's not too bad because you can kind of AFK it again, and it kind of makes more sense. Like, the big ore veins aren't just one rock, but you don't just get one ore out of it and then it's ruined and you got to go somewhere else. So it definitely is an improvement. But the smithing side of it, I don't think I've done enough of it personally to understand like exactly how much better it is. I guess I've done literally nearly none at all. I've done a little bit on my alt, but a lot of that, the levels I got on my alt account were just from protein stuff. So I mean, I haven't done that much of the mining and smithing rework stuff apart from the mining side. That being said, I know a lot of people absolutely love this as well, and I do believe that it is more engaging to actually get into this skill now. I think smithing is a hell of a lot more engaging than it used to be. You used to just get the bars, click on the item you want, and then it would make it, right? Whereas now you've got to actually physically heat it up and then get take it to the anvil and smack it with your hammer, and then you've got to reheat it again once the heat drops, and then you can upgrade the specific gears from like +1 to +2 to +3. I think that's really good, and I think Jagex just did a really good job with it overall in the fact of reworking smithing, because I do think smithing did need to rework. I just don't think I've done enough of it to fully understand what exactly makes the new smithing methods and stuff absolutely amazing. The next comment says, this is going back many years, but Revolution, because the update alone made RuneScape 3 playable again for me. If it wasn't for this, I wouldn't have come back after EOC, and I wouldn't be playing like I still do to date. This is a brilliant comment, and I actually really like this one. And a lot of you guys may not have known that Revolution wasn't released with EOC. It was actually about just over a year from when EOC released that Revolution was released as well. So I think initially EOC released on just full manual, and you had to manually click all your abilities or press your abilities with keybinds, right? But Revolution then joined, I think, about a year, I want to say a year and like a few months. I don't really know for sure, but about a year, just over a year. And it was a huge update because obviously people weren't used to pressing all these buttons for EOC, and it made such a big difference. It really did. I took a break for about a year when EOC released. It was just less than a year, about 10 months probably. And then when I came back, I was doing the same thing, pressing all the keys myself, having to work it all out, and I was enjoying it when I came back because I had people, old friends and stuff, that was like, no, That's actually pretty good. You should learn it. Just keep trying. I was doing that. I was killing like grot worms and stuff, and I didn't really get too much further into it. I was just doing Slayer. And then a few months later, they released the Revolution combat, and that was me. That was me set. I was just doing Revolution for freaking ages. That was it. Like, I think I Revolutioned until I got to Telos, and then Telos kind of made me change my mind. I'm like, okay, I need to learn full manual now. But Revolution coming out was great for the game because so many people don't want to just like manually input everything all the time. Think about Slayer as well. Trying to do Slayer tasks without Revolution now. Just imagine how all these tasks that you pretty much AFK for Slayer now, you wouldn't have been able to do that because you would have had to literally sit there pressing the keys on your keyboard to make sure these abilities go off, or you'd have to play in legacy mode. But off the top of my head, I think that even came out like after Revolution. I'm pretty sure legacy option came out even like months after Revolution, possibly, I don't know. But if you didn't have these options, you would have had to physically be inputting all these things just to do your Slayer tasks. Now, when you've got a few hundred mobs to kill, that could get a hell of a lot repetitive and kind of like, I kind of can't bother doing this. So Revolution did a great thing for the game. It keeps people playing. It makes it a lot more easy and like more what's the word, quality of life. It adds a hell of a lot of quality of life to the game, and I think had the Revolution setting not been added to the game, I think we wouldn't have anywhere near as many players as we do today. Now, how could I not include this one in here? And I'm surprised, you know, this was mentioned not that much. Like, this actually wasn't mentioned a hell of a lot, but I knew it would be in here somewhere. And that is, for me, it was when they released the Iron Man mode. So this comment is one I expected to see a hell of a lot more, and the Iron Men don't seem to have been around in this comment section. That being said, Iron Man mode has been a game changer for so many people, and it has been like a huge part of the game and a huge part of keeping people playing the game, because the people who don't like MTX just play Iron Man, right? And it removes all of that, and they aren't allowed to touch that or anything like that, and they have to do everything themselves. It is a different game mode that requires a lot of like skill and understanding of the game, and it also requires quite a bit of time and effort as well. It shows great achievements when you unlock stuff, and I think that it does add a new sort of complete feel to the game for a lot of people. Now, I know a lot of people who completely quit their main when this came out, never touched it again, and they just swear by Iron Man mode. They will literally not even touch a main account at all because they're just like, nah, no, not happening. I am not playing the way I can trade stuff. This is a hell of a lot better, and this is for me now. And I understand why. Iron Man mode is a great mode, and I think Jagex did really well with releasing this. I do believe it was inspired by players. Maybe, I'm not 100% sure on this, so I'm not gonna like say exactly where I think it's come from, but I'm pretty sure it was inspired by players, and then they took the idea and implemented it into the game. But either way, Iron Man mode was a good thing for the game. It absolutely was. I completely agree, and even though it's not for me, because I personally just do not have the time to do it or the understanding of the game enough to actually then invest more time into learning everything that I'd need to learn, at the moment at least, I think it's still good. Like, obviously there's no arguing, there's no downside for anyone who is not an Iron Man to have Iron Man in the game, because it doesn't affect you in the slightest at all. And then for the people who want to play like that, then happy days, you've got your Iron Man and you can get away from all the MTX and stuff. So definitely a great update, and I am very surprised, guys, that you did not include this more often in this list of comments. It's literally the only one that I can find, which is crazy. So we're going to move on to the last one, which is actually going to include my own as well, but so many of you guys agreed with this, and I actually think that it's surprising to a lot of people too. And I don't know whether that's just because we feel like we kind of aren't allowed to think this, seeing as what happened when it released, but I'm sure you guys are going to be already onto what I'm talking about now. But this was the most mentioned comment on this whole thing. This had the most, but every single person was like almost hesitant to say it. There's a weird thing around EOC, and of course that is what we're talking about and what I'm talking about. I personally believe that EOC was one of the best updates, in my opinion at least, for RuneScape. Now, before everyone gets out their pitchfork and jumps in and goes, well, no, because RuneScape was doing amazing, and then when they did EOC, then it kind of killed the game, and if they never actually released EOC, then the game would still be in this amazing state, and like it would just be great. Now, personally, you guys may disagree with this, but I believe that EOC was incredibly good for the game. It killed the game almost immediately. It made it like a dead content game. It made it something that people just didn't really enjoy playing that much, because EOC wasn't that polished when it released, and it was an issue. I quit the game as well. But that being said, where would we be today if we didn't have EOC and it never released? We would have maybe a prettier version of RuneScape 2 that we had, and while that may sound amazing to a lot of people, we would not have old school RuneScape, we would not have RuneScape 3. And while these communities are kind of divided, and it does kind of seem a little bit toxic on sometimes, A lot of players that play old school will play RuneScape 3, and a lot of players that play RuneScape 3 will play old school RuneScape, because both of them are good games, both of them have the same core, but then both of them offer different things. We still have that old version of RuneScape that we all used to love before EOC. It is obviously a while before that even, it's 2007 and not 2012, but it is still the same idea, and of course a lot of people returned to old school RuneScape when they released that. It was huge. And I do believe now the situation that RuneScape's in is so good. Having RuneScape 3 and having old school RuneScape, I believe, is a great thing to see. And both of the games, I believe, are growing in player count. RuneScape is a very old game, and being able to say that this game has been around for as long as it has and still has like some of the higher player counts compared to most MMOs that have been released after all this time, and it's got two different games, you don't have to combine them together. They both still perform incredibly well. Of course, old school does outperform quite a bit. Whether we argue about this in the comments saying that most of these are bots and whatnot, it's not even just that. Like, if you look at Twitch viewings and stuff, that it shows that their old school just has a much higher population. It does. But how many of those old school players play RuneScape 3? It's quite a lot. It really is quite a lot. And I do believe, and I kind of expect in the future, that RuneScape 3's player count will probably grow and probably increase. Not more than old school likely, but if it does increase, I would not be blown away at all. That being said, EOC offered so much more than just offering up both games and putting the game in a good situation. We have amazing bosses, we have pretty damn in-depth combat, which a lot of people really don't like, but at the same time, I love it. I think EOC combat, I think the way Jagex have done combat is incredibly confusing, incredibly hard to get your head around, but at the same time, I do think that it adds a high skill cap, and that is very satisfying for a lot of people who want to get into PvM. We also have the stuff that kind of makes it easier for beginner players, I guess, or players not wanting to do all the effort and stuff. And there is downsides, guys. There is downsides to this. There's the whole like min-maxing and the whole toxic stuff behind if you're not getting 3-minute rapture kills, then what are you doing, that sort of stuff. But we're not talking about that. Overall, I think EOC was a great thing to add to the game. It opened up a hell of a lot of opportunity for the game, and it has brought it to somewhere that I think RuneScape 3 is just a great game these days. And we still have old school RuneScape for all the people who don't like it. I think Jagex scrambled a little bit. They stumbled, they fell, they scrambled their way back up, but I think they managed to do it. I think they pulled it off kind of pretty well. Other than that, guys, that is going to bring us to the end of this video. I am not going to rant on for much longer on the outro, so if you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Thank you all so much for listening to me talk on and read all these comments. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did leave a comment, whether it got in the video or not, thank you very, very much. Thank you to the channel members who support the channel that bit extra each and every month as well. It helps out more than you can probably imagine, and I really do appreciate it. Your names, of course, have been on screen. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate it, and I'll see you all in the next one. See you later, guys. Bye.